Imagine standing beneath a vast, starless sky, no cell signal, no city lights, just the hum of silence and the feeling that something is watching you. Not from above, but all around. On lonely mountains, in forgotten caves, or deep within forests older than memory, people have always felt it, something hidden, something ancient. And sometimes, something that takes. For centuries, we've whispered about vanished travelers, flickering lights in the sky, voices from the shadows, and creatures that don't quite belong in the animal kingdom or the mythological one. But in the last 100 years, those whispers have grown louder. Now, with high-tech sensors and cameras, we're catching glimpses of things that sound less like folklore and more like uncomfortable truths. In this episode of Uncharted Mysteries, we journey into the strange and unsettling places where people disappear without a trace, where lights dance in patterns that defy physics, and where ancient legends of beings from below sound eerily modern. From the glowing valleys of Norway to the silent peaks of Mount Shasta, from mysterious bird deaths in India to the chilling final steps of a YouTuber who claimed to find a cave that made his body vibrate, we're following the stories most historians won't touch. And for our older viewers, those of you who remember the Cold War era, the 1960s space race, or the day America looked to the skies with wonder and fear, you'll find echoes here. Because some of these mysteries were first reported during your lifetimes. In fact, many of them were buried shortly after. Remember Project Blue Book? The mysterious flashes during Apollo missions? The government told you not to worry, but they never explained what we actually saw. This isn't just about ghosts and aliens. It's about the thin line between what we know and what we've chosen to forget. Disappearances, hidden cities, lights that think. It's all connected. So if you've ever felt that the world is stranger than it's supposed to be, stay with us. Because tonight, we're stepping into places where the truth doesn't just hide. It watches. Mount Shasta rises like a white sentinel over Northern California, majestic, snow-capped, and impossibly still. To many, it's just a mountain. But to those who've felt its pull, it's something else entirely. For decades, long before social media or UFO fever, Mount Shasta has been at the heart of strange disappearances, sightings of glowing orbs, and whispers of an ancient civilization buried deep beneath its surface. Locals talk of Telos, a hidden crystal city believed to house the last survivors of Lemuria, a once great continent said to have sunk beneath the Pacific. The story sounds like fantasy until you hear it from former military personnel, hikers, and even park rangers who swear something is wrong with that mountain. Some speak of beings, tall, luminous, sometimes human-like, sometimes not, that appear in the forest and vanish just as quickly. Others describe portals, sensations of time bending, or a low vibration in the chest as they approach certain areas. Compasses fail. Batteries drain. Radios go silent. And then, people vanish. In 1934, a hiker named James E. Gilliland wrote of a glowing tunnel inside the mountain. In more recent years, a man went missing during a solo expedition near Panther Meadows, no trace ever found. Yet his phone, recovered near a stream, recorded hours of unexplained static and soft voices in a language no one could identify. Some attribute it all to natural magnetism, volcanic gas, or spiritual projection. Others claim it's extraterrestrial, pointing to sightings of disc-shaped crafts emerging from the mountainside. And then there's a quieter theory, interdimensional activity, that Mount Shasta is a thin place, a doorway where the rules of time and space bend. For those over 65, the echoes of this story may feel familiar. Back in the 1950s and 60s, Shasta was already a Hotspot for New Age seekers, veterans returning from war, and Cold War researchers trying to explain what couldn't be explained. Even in official circles, the mountain was marked as a place of interest, though no files ever went public. Why? Because what happens on Mount Shasta doesn't fit into any neat category. It's not just myth. It's not just science. It's something in between, a place where history, mystery, and reality intersect. And if Telos is real, hidden in crystalline chambers miles beneath your feet, then the question isn't what's down there, but why haven't we been told? Chapter 2, Bonnybridge UFO Hotspot. Tucked between the hills of central Scotland lies a quiet town most people pass without a second thought, Bonnybridge. But since the early 1990s, this peaceful spot has become known for something much stranger, one of the highest concentrations of UFO sightings in the world. It started slowly. A flicker of light in the sky. A strange hum over the trees. People thought it was their imagination. But then it kept happening, again and again. Glowing orbs, triangular crafts, even massive cylindrical objects silently hovering in place. Children, farmers, police officers, pilots, all reported seeing the same things. Not once. Not twice. Hundreds of times. And here's what makes Bonnybridge different: the sightings aren't fleeting. They're long, detailed, consistent. Some witnesses claim the objects responded to them, changing color, shape, or movement when approached. Others described lost time, nausea, or the overwhelming sense of being watched. Local government took notice. Councilman Billy Buchanan even appealed to the British Ministry of Defence, demanding an official investigation. He was ignored. Despite nearly 300 reported sightings a year, no formal action was ever taken, at least, none the public was told about. So what's happening in Bonnybridge? Some say it's a natural electromagnetic anomaly, a place where Earth's magnetic fields spike, distorting instruments and attracting attention, human or otherwise. Others believe the area is a window, a geographic weak point where the fabric between dimensions thins. And then there are those who insist it's military technology being tested, hidden in plain sight behind the mask of mystery. But the sightings continue. Even now, residents report silent craft hovering above fields, sometimes disappearing in the blink of an eye. And not just at night, broad daylight. For older viewers in the US, this might feel like déjà vu. You think of Roswell, Project Blue Book, or the unexplained sightings from the Cold War era. Bonnybridge is that, but on an ongoing loop. And unlike Roswell, this town is still active, still watched, still waiting for answers. Could it be a hoax? A mass delusion? Or are the skies above Bonnybridge telling us something we're not ready to hear? Whatever the truth is, it's not leaving quietly. In the heart of Japan's ancient Nara region once stood Horuguji Temple, a place known more for quiet prayer than international curiosity. But buried within its forgotten corridors was a statue unlike any other in Buddhist or Shinto tradition, a humanoid lizard with elongated limbs, scaled texture, and piercing, non-human eyes. And then, it vanished. There are no clear photos. Only a handful of sketches, vague descriptions from early travelers, and local whispers of its removal. Some say it was relocated. Others claim it was stolen. But the story didn't end with the statue, it only got stranger. Why would a temple, revered for centuries, house a figure with no known connection to Japan's religious or cultural iconography? Some researchers believe the statue wasn't merely symbolic, but depictive, a physical representation of an ancient encounter. One that predates written records. Japanese folklore is filled with shape-shifting creatures, the kappa, dragons, serpent gods, beings that live in water or under mountains, often watching from the shadows. But this statue wasn't mythical in design, it was anatomically deliberate, almost as if sculpted from memory. In recent decades, theorists have drawn parallels between Horuguji's statue and modern reports of reptilian humanoids, a theme that echoes across cultures, from Mayan carvings to Babylonian gods, and even UFO abduction cases in the West. Coincidence? Or a pattern we've refused to acknowledge? Adding to the intrigue, reports from 20th century researchers claimed unusual EM readings around the temple site, similar to disturbances recorded in other global hotspots. And then, suddenly, access was restricted. Tourists were turned away. Parts of the temple were quietly restored, and the statue was never seen again. Is this the case of a misunderstood artifact, or a deliberate cover-up? Older generations may recall how stories like this were once dismissed as fantasy, tales of ancient astronauts, fringe science, Cold War paranoia. But today, with global databases, declassified files, and cross-cultural analysis, we're finding overlaps between myths once thought unrelated. What if this lizard statue wasn't a symbol at all, but a memory? A preserved encounter, quietly removed before too many questions were asked? And if so, who, or what, was it meant to honor? Or worse, warn us about? Deep in a quiet Norwegian valley, far from the bustle of cities and satellites, strange lights have danced across the sky for nearly a century. Locals in Hesdalen Valley first began reporting them in the 1930s, floating orbs, pulsing beams, lights that moved with intelligence, yet without sound. They appeared without warning and vanished just as mysteriously. And despite all the advancements of modern science, no one can say exactly what they are. These aren't myths passed down through vague folklore. These are documented phenomena, observed and recorded by trained scientists using high-tech equipment. Since the 1980s, teams from Norway, Italy, and even the United States have brought radar, spectrographs, electromagnetic field sensors, and more, all confirming that what appears in the skies above Hesdalen is real. Not imagination. Not hallucination. What's seen? Large white and yellow lights hovering in the sky for hours. Small blue orbs darting between trees. Lights that shoot vertically, defying gravity. Some are silent. Some emit a low hum. Many seem to respond to human presence, as if they know they're being watched. And yet, theories diverge wildly. Some scientists speculate the lights are caused by ionized plasma, a rare interaction between minerals in the valley's soil and underground water reacting with electromagnetic fields. A fascinating idea, except plasma doesn't usually exhibit intelligent motion. Others suggest atmospheric energy discharges, ball lightning, or rare geological events. But these explanations fall short when video footage shows lights that stop, pivot, and even separate into multiple orbs. Then, of course, there's the UFO hypothesis, one that has grown harder to dismiss as more footage emerges from other places around the globe showing eerily similar lights. Could Hesdalen be a landing site? A surveillance point? Or a natural portal? What fascinates researchers even more is the consistency. While UFO sightings elsewhere are sporadic, Hesdalen's lights appear with predictable regularity, sometimes several nights a week. An observatory was even built to monitor them 24/7. Yet despite decades of study, no definitive answer. To our older audience, those who remember when seeing a light in the sky meant rushing to turn the radio on, or glancing up with Cold War anxiety, this story feels like a remnant of that unease. Back then, we feared foreign technology. Now, we're starting to wonder if something else has always been here, hiding in the quiet places, blinking slowly in the night. Because sometimes, the lights don't just float above the valley. They follow you home. Rising like a colossal table from the jungles where Brazil, Venezuela, and Guyana meet, Mount Roraima looks like it belongs on another planet. Its flat top pierces the clouds, its sheer cliffs stretch hundreds of feet straight down, and its summit, often shrouded in mist, is a world unlike anything else on Earth. Botanists call it a lost world for its unique plant life. Explorers call it haunting. Locals? They call it sacred. But the real mystery of Roraima goes far beyond its surreal geography. Ancient indigenous legends tell of spirits, gods, and giants who once walked its summit. The Peman people speak of the mountain as the home of Macunema, a trickster god with powers beyond comprehension. To them, the mountain is not merely sacred, it's alive. And it guards something. Something ancient. Something hidden. Mount Roraima wasn't globally known until the 1800s, but once it was discovered, it inspired stories like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, where dinosaurs and forgotten civilizations lived atop an isolated plateau. But here's what's unsettling: even today, scientists still can't explain everything they find up there. There are plants that exist nowhere else, animals genetically different from their jungle cousins, and massive quartz formations that some researchers believe emit low-frequency vibrations, the same frequencies reported by visitors who claim to feel altered states of awareness while on the summit. And then there are the sightings. Unexplained lights. Shadowy figures glimpsed at the edge of the mist. Campers who go missing without a trace. Some believe the mountain hides an ancient entrance, not just to a cave system, but to another world, another dimension, or a civilization that chose to vanish rather than face the modern world. To those over 65 who remember tales of the Bermuda Triangle, Hollow Earth, or the fascination with uncharted regions during the space race, Roraima is part of that same pulse. The fear and wonder that something vast, intelligent, and ancient lies just outside our grasp. And that no matter how advanced we become, some places remain deliberately unknown. Mount Roraima may not hide dinosaurs, but what it does hide could be far stranger. Not extinct creatures, but forgotten intelligence. Not fantasy, but a reality that waited for us to stop looking up and start looking within. In the vast and unforgiving deserts of Nevada, where the silence is broken only by wind and the occasional howl of coyotes, a man vanished, not just physically, but from all sense of understanding. His name was Kenny Veach, a seasoned hiker and outdoorsman, known for exploring deep into desolate terrain. But what made Kenny's case different was what he claimed to have found, and what happened after. In 2014, Kenny posted a comment on a YouTube video about strange cave discoveries. He said he had once stumbled across an M-shaped cave near Nellis Air Force Base, a restricted area infamous for its ties to Area 51. According to him, the moment he stepped near the entrance, his whole body began to vibrate. It wasn't fear, he said, it was physical. As if the cave itself was emitting something unnatural. Alarmed, he turned back. But curiosity gnawed at him. He promised to return, with a camera this time, to prove what he saw. Days later, Kenny disappeared. His phone was found near an abandoned mine. But no body, no gear, and no further trace of him was ever discovered. Search teams, family, even internet sleuths combed the area. Nothing. His YouTube channel remained silent. Except for one haunting detail, in his final video upload before he vanished. Kenny mentions that if he didn't make it back, he wanted people to know he was doing what he loved. As if he knew something was going to happen. Was it an accident? A fall into one of the many uncharted shafts and caves in the Nevada desert? Or was it something else? Many now believe Kenny stumbled too close to something he wasn't supposed to find, a hidden entrance. Military tech, or perhaps an underground facility beneath the desert. Some even claim he may have discovered a thin point, a place where reality overlaps with something far older and darker.
For many older viewers, especially those who lived through the height of Cold War secrecy and government cover-ups, this story echoes tales of whistleblowers who disappeared or knew too much. It raises the question, how many mysteries are deliberately buried beneath our feet? How many people vanished simply because they got too close? Kenny Veach wasn't chasing a myth. He was following a vibration, one that may still be humming beneath the sand. And now he's part of the mystery. High in the lush hills of Assam, India, lies the quiet village of Jatinga, a place that might seem like paradise at first glance. But when the monsoon winds begin to shift and the skies turn strange, Jatinga becomes something else. Entirely a valley of death, not for people but for birds. Every year, in the dark, misty evenings between September and November, flocks of birds, many of them migratory, some rare and exotic, fly directly into buildings, trees, and even bonfires. They crash and fall, seemingly disoriented, sometimes in large numbers. The villagers describe them as if they're being drawn in by an unseen force only to be struck down without cause. It's a phenomenon that's baffled scientists for decades. Some claim the cause is natural, explaining that the birds, lost in dense fog, are confused by the lights of the village, that perhaps electromagnetic shifts caused by the region's unique topography interfere with their navigation systems. Others argue that unusual wind tunnels and altitude changes may create pockets of pressure that cause sudden disorientation. But here's what's strange. This doesn't happen in nearby towns or across other parts of the region. Only in Jatinga, and only on moonless nights after 7 p.m., when the skies are especially dark. Local legends go much further. Some believe Jatinga is cursed, haunted by an ancient spirit, or trapped under an invisible dome of sorrow. Elders speak of sky demons or a gate between worlds that opens just briefly each year, to claim the souls of birds as an offering. And though the villagers used to interpret the falling birds as omens or signs, today they treat the event with somber curiosity. Some even light fires to try to ward off the phenomenon, though it never seems to help. For those watching from afar, especially older audiences who remember when flocks of birds were considered signs of changing seasons or divine signals, Jatinga presents a more unsettling question. What happens when nature no longer behaves like nature? When instinct fails and life is drawn to death, as if by design? Maybe it's not just confusion. Maybe it's a message, one we haven't yet learned to read. Because in Jatinga, the skies themselves seem to whisper a warning, one carried on the wings of creatures who never make it home. In the deep fjords and mist-covered mountains of Norway, where the air is crisp and time moves a little slower, there lingers a legend as old as the stones themselves, the mountain trolls. Towering, grumpy, and sometimes terrifying, these mythical creatures were once believed to roam the wild, untouched places of the world, hidden in plain sight, only seen by those who dared to wander too far from the village paths. To many, trolls are fairy tale fodder, just bedtime stories told to children. But in the remote regions of Scandinavia, especially among the older generations, they are remembered as something more, something real, ancient. Stories tell of massive footprints in freshly fallen snow, of boulders suddenly displaced, and strange echoes in the night, as if something enormous had moved through the mountains while the world slept. And then came the photo. In the 1950s, a blurry black and white image surfaced, allegedly showing a massive, humanoid shape standing in the fog above a Norwegian pass. It was quickly dismissed as a trick of light or a hoax, but the photo has never been conclusively debunked. And to this day, it remains one of the most hotly debated pieces of folklore evidence in Northern Europe. Skeptics point to folklore psychology, how isolated communities create monsters to explain the unexplainable. Others argue it's all symbolic, representing nature's untamed power. But some researchers propose something more unsettling, that these legends could be distorted memories of actual hominids, Neanderthals or something even older, whose interactions with early humans were passed down through generations, eventually becoming myth. There are even whispers in cryptozoology circles, communities dedicated to the study of undiscovered creatures, that northern Scandinavia's harsh climate and isolated geography could have allowed something to survive. Something massive, something intelligent, something that fears the sun, hides in the stone, and only comes down from the peaks when it has to. To older viewers, especially those who grew up hearing stories by the fireside, when the world still felt mysterious and wild, the legend of the mountain troll isn't just a tale. It's a memory of a time when people listened to the land, and when shadows in the fog weren't dismissed with a laugh, but met with silence, respect, and a door locked tightly at night, because maybe not everything ancient disappeared. Some things simply retreated and waited. In the rolling hills and wild woods of England's Lake District, tucked into a limestone cliff, lies a cave you might miss if you weren't looking for it. It has no doors, no signs, no comforts, and yet it was once the chosen home of a man who walked away from modern life altogether. His name was Millican Dalton, and for nearly half a century this cave was where he lived, worked, and dreamed. Dalton wasn't a madman or a recluse in the usual sense. He was a trained engineer, a teacher, a craftsman, and a philosopher of sorts. In the early 1900s, long before the term off-grid became trendy, Millican chose to reject industrialized society and its noise. He traded a structured life in London for the quiet, echoing solitude of the mountains. His cave, hand-carved with messages, tools, and memories, became a sanctuary not just from war and chaos, but from the very pace of progress. But what makes his story mysterious is not just the cave itself. It's how little we truly understand about what drove him. Dalton kept journals but rarely published. He gave guided hikes to those who could find him but shared little of his deeper reasons for leaving the world behind. Was it disillusionment? A personal tragedy? Or was Millican seeking something greater? A truth lost in the noise of civilization? Today, the cave remains. Visitors still find remnants of his presence. Carvings in stone like "Don't waste words, jump to conclusions," and "No war here unless it is with the weather." It's almost as if Dalton was speaking to the future, to us, those caught in the rush of modern life, searching for meaning. For older generations who may remember post-war Britain, ration books, or the first signs of urban sprawl, Dalton's story resonates deeply. It speaks of a world where men could choose silence over noise, simplicity over success, and wilderness over walls. But there's also something eerie about it. How did he survive so long with so little? Why did no one follow his path or question his motives more closely? And what truths might he have discovered in that cave? Truths too simple or too dangerous for the modern world to accept? Maybe the real mystery isn't the cave, it's what he found in the silence. In 2013, along a windswept beach in Hesdalen, England, scientists made a quiet discovery that would shake the foundations of everything we thought we knew about human history. Beneath the soft erosion of the tides, in a layer of ancient silt, they found something unexpected: footprints. Not fossilized bones or stone tools, but human footprints pressed deep into the earth and over 800,000 years old. These weren't animal prints or random indentations. They were clearly human-like, showing arches, heel strikes, and even variations in stride. Some belonged to adults, others to children. A group walking inland from the coast, just like modern families might do today. But this wasn't today. This was nearly 1 million years ago. Until then, the prevailing theory was that early humans hadn't reached northern Europe until much later, perhaps 500,000 years ago. But these prints pushed that timeline back by hundreds of thousands of years. They suggested that early hominins, possibly Homo antecessor, a distant ancestor, were surviving in harsh ice age conditions long before we believed they could. And that's just one site. Similar discoveries have been made in Litoli, Tanzania, and White Sands, New Mexico, where human footprints stretch across ancient volcanic ash or ancient lake beds, placing people in regions long before current models allow. It's not just one anomaly, it's a pattern, a whisper from the past that we've missed something big. For many watching, especially those in the older generation who remember when the textbooks seemed unshakable, when the timeline of history was presented as fixed and final, this story represents a thrilling, even unsettling shift. Because if footprints this old exist where we thought humans hadn't been, what else lies buried? Beneath centuries of assumption, it makes us question, were early humans far more advanced than we think? Were there migrations we've never mapped? Civilizations we haven't even imagined yet? Or could it be that we're not uncovering the first footsteps of humanity, but the remains of a forgotten age? After all, footprints are more than impressions in the earth. They're stories left behind by someone who was here long before us, and whose journey isn't finished being told. Beneath the peaks of sacred mountains and deep within ancient caverns, whispers tell of cities made not of stone and steel but crystal, shimmering walls, glowing corridors, and technology so advanced it defies the laws of modern physics. It sounds like science fiction, until you realize how many cultures across continents and centuries tell almost the same story. The most famous of these legends is Telos, the supposed subterranean crystal city beneath Mount Shasta in California. First popularized in the late 19th and early 20th centuries through occult writings and esoteric circles, Telos is said to be home to the Lemurians, a race of highly evolved beings who survived the destruction of the lost continent of Lemuria by retreating underground. Believers say Telos is a self-sustaining city, powered by crystal energy, with knowledge that could cure disease, end war, and perhaps even control time itself. The residents? Peaceful, telepathic, ageless. According to lore, they occasionally surface in disguise, guiding human evolution without revealing themselves. Skeptical? Understandable. But here's what makes it strange. Similar stories exist all over the world. In South America, Shambhala and Agartha are described in nearly identical terms, hidden crystal realms beneath the Andes or Himalayas, accessible only through spiritual awakening or specific energy portals. In the traditions of some Native American tribes, there are tales of star people or inner earth beings who live in luminous, underground cities and communicate through dreams. And while mainstream science dismisses these tales as myth or metaphor, the idea of underground civilizations isn't completely unfounded. Vast cave networks, some stretching hundreds of miles, have been discovered across North America, Europe, and Asia. In Turkey alone, over 200 underground cities have been unearthed, and some, like Derinkuyu, could house tens of thousands of people, complete with air shafts, water systems, and defenses. Could the idea of crystal cities be an echo of a reality we've only begun to rediscover? To older audiences, especially those who grew up during the atomic age, when both the promise and fear of hidden technologies loomed large, this strikes a familiar nerve. What if what we once feared being hidden below ground wasn't destruction, but preservation? Perhaps these cities were not myths, but sanctuaries, sealed during global cataclysms to protect knowledge, people, and power. And maybe, just maybe, they're still down there, waiting for the world to be ready again. Some vanish without a trace. Others leave behind riddles, journals, or blurry footage. But across every chapter we've explored tonight, from the lonely cave of Millican Dalton to the deadly skies over Jatinga, from the glowing lights in Hesdalen to the hollowed-out halls of Mount Shasta, there's one thing that echoes louder than the silence left behind. Disappearance is never just physical. It's conceptual, psychological, even spiritual. People don't just vanish into thin air, they vanish from understanding. They slip beyond what science can explain, beyond what we're comfortable accepting. and often they vanish in places we've been taught to ignore. Deep forests, shadowed mountains, ancient valleys, and lonely paths most fear to tread. But maybe that's exactly where the truth has been hiding all along. Is it possible that some of these people weren't lost, but chosen? Taken by forces we don't yet recognize? By civilizations that exist just beyond the veil? Or by something older watching silently from the edges of our reality? Think about it. Footprints that shouldn't exist. Cities no map can find. Lights in the sky that move like thought. Legends passed down for thousands of years, all whispering the same message. We are not alone and never were. What if those who vanish are stepping into a story we're only beginning to remember? Let that question follow you into the night. And if this episode stirred your curiosity, if it made you question what's real, what's forgotten, and what might still be out there, then don't let it end here. Like, if you believe some mysteries choose to stay hidden, comment your theory. What do you think happened to Kenny Veach? Subscribe for more stories that bend time, history, and belief. Watch our full Uncharted Mysteries playlist and dive deeper into the secrets the world wasn't ready to tell. Because sometimes, the ones who vanish aren't lost. They're just beyond the map,